No? Brooke, Andrew?
I'm good.
Okay, great. Andrew?
I good.
Thank you. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is under reports, report number PDR JAAC 33 23, Maisie parking lot and Calipore trail map signs. I'm going to hand it over to Natalie Michelko.
Yeah, I just messaged Natalie. I
Okay.
don't see her on yet. I guess if it's okay with the committee, we could maybe move on to the next item.
Okay,
first.
sure. Is everyone else fine with moving on to the next item? Perfect.
I'm good.
Okay, thanks, Brooke. Andrew?
I good.
Great. Okay, so the next item is the Town of Hanover's Fire Hall plans, and I will hand that over to Melissa Hillingdorf and Jeff Dentinger.
Thank you, Catherine. So just a quick note that Jeff, Fire Chief Jeff is not able to join us today. He's just had an unexpected family situation arise. So I'm going to do my very best to speak to any questions that the committee has. If there's anything that I'm not able to respond to, then I will speak with Jeff after and then get back to the committee that way, if that's okay. Today, it's pretty exciting that we're at this point. It's been a long time coming, this new fire hall that's coming to the town of Hanover. So we're at the point now where we're able to share the site plan and the floor plan for the new hall with the committee. The new fire hall is planned to be situated in the industrial park within the southeastern corner of Hanover. Which is going to be just south of where the Hanover Veterinary Hospital is. The general public would access the fire hall through a public parking entrance using First Street. And then firefighters would have a totally separate entrance for when they come in to respond to emergencies using an easterly extension to what is right now 2nd Street. So that separation will help to just maintain the safety of everyone so that we've got public in one area and firefighters in another area, just in case, you know, they're coming screaming in there for an emergency and they're not expecting patrons to be in that area. The town is also considering the addition of a sidewalk, which would extend from 18th Ave, which is the street that passes by the veterinary clinic and John Diefenbaker Secondary School. So it would pass from 18th Ave along First Street and leading into the fire hall entrance. And then off of that sidewalk would be a concrete pathway leading directly from the sidewalk into the building for ease of access and walkability and accessibility. So I will say that the sidewalk is right now a consideration. It's not been formally input into the plans. But it's definitely on the radar, and so something that we do want to speak to the committee about as well. Within the report, there's an aerial image that depicts the hall's approximate location, so it just shows where the veterinary hospital is, with 2nd Street kind of behind the veterinary hospital, and then about a block up would be First Street with the entrance publicly to the fire hall. That public entrance would lead to then a public parking area located along the west side of the fire hall. There would be 2 accessible parking spaces in the area right closest to the main entrance to the building. Cut curbs would provide access from the parking spaces up onto the sidewalk that would wrap around both the front and the sides of the building. And a barrier-free door would be located under a canopy at the southwestern corner of the facility, just a short distance from the accessible parking spaces. There is within the report an engineer's drawing that depicts where the public parking area is and where the public entrance would be. One thing to note is that the building would remain locked at all times to ensure the security of the facility if staff are called to respond to an emergency unexpectedly. When those fire bells go, they don't have time to kind of run around and lock all the doors and check those things. So they're looking at a system where a doorbell would be in place to let staff know that someone is at the facility entrance. making sure that the button for the doorbell or whatever mechanism is used would be located at a barrier-free height. And the system for that doorbell is something that we would be particularly interested in hearing your thoughts on. Once inside the building, so a staff member would come and escort everyone into the building. Members of the public would enter a common area. It's quite big. It's about 33 feet by 22 feet in size. It's also planned to be used like as a reception area, but also as a kind of museum to display some fire equipment. And the report does include an image of the floor plan that depicts the museum and display entrance area. From the entrance area, in that common area, a door leads north into a hallway. It is a locked door once again, but it is barrier-free with hold open functions. That provides access to offices and meeting rooms on either side of the hall, as well as a universal washroom in the hallway. So if you could imagine the building sectioned into three areas, all within the left side of the building would be those kind of more public spaces, with a non-public area in the middle, which would house the actual fire trucks and other apparatus. And then on the far right side of the building would also be not a public area, but that's where it would house things like utilities, training facilities, lockers, and equipment. Within the report, there is an image of the floor plan that shows the public areas of the fire hall, including the common room, the hallways, offices, and meeting rooms in the universal washroom. The facility will be constructed in compliance with accessibility requirements in the Ontario Building Code. But in addition to these requirements, we're really interested to hear from this committee and receive input on items that would support making the public areas of the fire hall as accessible as possible, as well as that potential sidewalk. And the goal is that the town will consider this feedback when constructing the fire hall and finalizing plans and determining if and where a sidewalk is located. So I'm happy to answer any questions and also very happy to receive any feedback that you may have. Could I ask directly if there are any thoughts around a certain style of doorbell or a certain system that has or hasn't worked well in other facilities?
Melissa, I'm not 100% certain on doorbell systems. I know, you know, in the past, I've recommended to small business owners wireless doorbells. You know, the only thing you'd have to be cognizant of that is that the batteries would have to be, you know, checked on a, you know, sort of that there's a routine scheduled check of the building for batteries in other apparatuses in the building that they would, you know, make that change, you know, when time changes, right? That they check those batteries and change those as well. It's a speaker kind of system. So the wireless doorbell is attached to the front of the building, but there's a speaker that could be placed in an area in anywhere in the building. I think it has to be in a certain range away from the actual doorbell, but it's got a fairly large range. So it would have to be placed where the majority of the people in the building would hear it. So I don't know if they'd have a reception area. I'm not sure, you know, if it's a full-time fire department, you know, a volunteer fire department, but if there's somebody that's always in the building, you know, that it's in range of someone hearing it.
That's a great question. So there's not a formal reception desk per se, but we have 2 full-time staff members so there would generally be one there, unless they're out at a call, and then the remainder of the staff are volunteers, so they come and go as.
Okay.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Kathy, sorry, I missed you.
That's okay, Chair. Thank you. Just want to throw out there about the automatic door openers. Prior, so we're going before COVID, people were recommending the longer bar rather than the round button because there was more opportunity for people with varying abilities to engage that remote opener piece. I'm not certain if that input is still like the advised way to go or not, but it might be something to think about.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Claudia.
How about
Welcome,
motion
Claudia.
sensors? Sorry, I'm late. This day got way too busy too fast. I was thinking motion sensors maybe.
Claudia, through you, Chair. Are you speaking more with the doorbell system or with the doors?
You could do both, I guess. with
I'm not
motion
sure
sensors.
if, I noted, you may not have joined just yet, that in the fire hall, their plan is they have to keep all the doors locked until a staff member can open them for the member of the public, just in case they get called out to a fire hall that the building's not left open while they're gone.
I see.
So there's that one kind of nuance of the lock.
But
on the
then
door.
why wonder about buttons to begin with?
They do want to have that functionality just in case, say someone is on the other side of the locked door, that
Oh, I
they could
see.
still use the functions and the hold open features.
Okay.
Yeah, and it may not necessarily be a member of the public either. It could also be somebody that's coming into service in the building as well. So they would have to have access to somebody in the building and to allow them in. Yeah. I do like the idea that the accessible parking is close to the entrance of the building. You know, and that, you know, there will be proper curb cuts according to the building code. So I generally don't have any major concerns. I did look at the site plan. Nothing jumped out at me. I'm just, congratulations that you're finally getting to this build. We need our fire departments, that's for sure. Does anyone else on the committee have any questions for Melissa or any comments? Andrew?
Well, I think that I don't know because the button would be the best idea, but the button has to be turned on when need it too. They have to remember to turn it on too. When they go to unlock the door. So, but as far as the sidewalk, nobody's said anything about it yet, but I think if the public's gonna have people in wheelchairs coming down there, the sidewalk's gonna be the best thing.
I thought of you specifically, Andrew, when we were initially looking at the floor plans with the fire chief the site plan rather. And our chat that we had a while ago about, you know, having that continuous pathway for people to get from the sidewalk or the street straight into the building.
Yes.
Good point, Andrew. Does anyone else have any comments? Brooke?
Just for the button to make sure that it's very visible, because it's always nice to have it all like, that it doesn't say like, hey, look at me, but at the same time, it's kind of important for people who don't see as well to be able to actually find it. And then,
Yes.
just in regards to the sensor, like the sensor idea, I guess the hardest part would be that I know a lot of the censored stuff, they get like false. They get like, what do you call it? They get triggered by things that aren't what you're looking for. So it might not necessarily be a person. It might be like, could be a leaf sometimes, or it could be maybe there's an animal that decides to wants to come visit. So that's
Very
one of the
true.
problems with sensors.
Thanks, Brooke. Claudia.
I was wondering if there could be a way to computerize that system. So when the fire department knows that there's nobody in the building for a while, that they just basically on the computer push the right buttons to initiate, okay, the door opener won't work right now because nobody's in the building, you know, something like that.
Okay, okay.
Like nowadays you can computerize anything, right? Like you can computerize when the light's gonna come on to warm your chicken house. Like there must be a way to do that with the push of a button.
Yes, and I will ask the fire chief. That's a great idea that, you know, if they do hear that doorbell ring, can they just push a button and it opens, the person doesn't have to stand outside and wait. Kind of like, I know our local school has an idea, something very similar.
Okay. Does anyone else have any comments or questions for Melissa? No? Okay, so I am going to present a motion that the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee provide input related to accessibility of public areas of the facility and possible sidewalk for consideration. Can I get a mover for the motion?
I can move it. It's Brooke.
Thanks, Brooke. And a seconder, please.
Sure.
Claudia, all in favor? Great. So we did pass over, and thank you, Melissa, appreciate it. And I see that you're also on the agenda for another item. Are you comfortable with me going back to item number 1 and then coming back to you, circling around? Okay, great. So item number 1, we'll move back to that, is report number PDR-JAAC-33-23, Maisie parking lot and Kalapur trail map signs. And I'm going to hand this over to Natalie. Welcome, Natalie.
Natalie,
Hi, sorry everyone. Are you able to see my screen now?
yes,
can.
Natalie.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon, committee and through the chair. Apologies for my lateness, but I'm very excited to speak with all of you this afternoon about some trail improvement projects that are related to two county forests. The first one being the Massey parking lot, and the second one is the Kolapur trail map signs. So the Massey parking lot is a project that will be undertaken in partnership with the county, Grey Sauble Conservation Authority, the Owen Sound Cross Country Ski Club, and the Bruce Trail Conservancy. The parking lot will be situated to the west of Concession Road 6, which abuts the Massey Hills Management Area. And that's in the municipality of Meaford, and it's about 4 kilometers north of the community of Massey. So this parking lot, it will be on Grey Sauble lands, and this specific spot was chosen because the area is already cleared. It's used as a staging area for logging operations, and the parking lot will be owned and operated by Grey Sauble Conservation. The county's property is directly north of the subject lands, and the parking lot is primarily intended to serve cross-country skiers and Bruce Trail users. So gravel will be added to the parking lot, and it'll be situated near the trailhead to allow approximately 20 vehicles to park near the trails. For the second trail improvement project, the county is looking to update the forest trail map signage to help users with wayfinding. And the first property that's the candidate for this is Kolapur. But this is kind of the general template that would be used for other forest properties as well. And each forest sign will contain the name of the forest, a simplified base map with the county forest trails denoted in either red, orange, yellow, or green. The text under the base map is just a standard map disclaimer that needs to be included as per data license requirements. And the legend will indicate any icons such as the trail map signposts, parking, the trails themselves and their respective lengths, as well as the property boundary and any other items of significance such as ecological features, points of interest, or abutting roads. There will be a "You are here" indicator on each map, and at the bottom of the signs, there will be a QR code directing users to the county's website and then also contain contact information as well. And then in terms of like the physical signs on the property, they will be about 40 centimeters by 40 centimeters in size, and they'll be mounted on wooden posts and then placed at each intersection within the trail system and then every trailhead as well. So this image, it's similar to the last map I just showed you. It just shows some more specific components that might be added to the Kolapur signs just to make them more consistent with the Kolapur Wilderness Trails Association, which is the group that has trails running throughout the county lands. And these trails also extend northward into the Conservation Authority lands and Ministry lands. For example, all of the trails currently have posts with numbers at each intersection, which corresponds to a map that the Kolapur Wilderness Trails Association provides to their membership. So we might be looking at putting these numbers specifically, directly on the trail signage, either under the trail info icon or replace the icon entirely with the number as seen on the image, the 5 and the 4 there. And the purpose of this would just to keep things consistent with the user group as much as possible. Another option for this property would be to include additional messaging on the sign that indicates the trails are specifically for cross-country skiing, with the exception of the trail to the south of the main trail system, which is a designated snowshoe trail. And the thought was to make this signage as simple as possible and as easy to interpret as possible, kind of focusing on the locations and the points of interest. To kind of reduce the clutter, and we can look at other signage as well that would potentially contain emergency 911 information or additional permitted use information as well. So that's the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions or feedback from the committee.
Yes, Claudia.
I was wondering if the trails could be color coded. And in the legend, you say maybe skiing is blue and walking is green and snowshoeing is whatever, red or something like that. Then it would be, you just look at it and you automatically know.
Yeah, through the chair. Thanks, Claudia. That's a really great suggestion. I know for other properties, the trails are color coded, and this is one property where they're all the same color, which to your point doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I think that's a really good suggestion. We can definitely look at doing that.
And it's easy, right?
For sure, yeah.
The cheap solution.
Brooke, I see you have your hand up.
I had a question about will the website have the ability, will it give you the same information? Is there like a website where I can get the same information that's on the board? Because you were saying that there's also going to be comments, like information about the ecological aspects of the trail. So these are things that like you couldn't really put in Braille on the board because it would take a lot of boards to write everything down. So will there be a spot where we can go and read what's on the board?
Yeah, thanks for your question, Brooke. And through the chair, that's another really great suggestion. Currently, the QR code takes you to the Kolapur webpage, and it does contain some information on the natural features, but I think including more information and more information specific to what's on the trail map would be really great. Yeah, so that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Andrea, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. Through you, the chair, seeing as this is your opportunity to do new signage, can we see some coordination with our Director of Community Services and with the province as well about warning people that they are using these trails at their own risk, to the effect of that if they need emergency services to bring them out, they will receive a bill? This is a kind of messaging that we really need to coordinate on every tier of government that has property in our municipality that is offering these recreational opportunities. Maybe you can't squeeze it on every single sign, but I would say at a minimum it should be on each access point into our own Grey County, as it should be on the Kolapur uplands, as well as over at Metcalfe, where it's the provincial side. We need the same message, and Chief Khan could elaborate more fully on that in terms of the appropriate wording, along with the Director of Community Services, Ryan Gibbons.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for that feedback, Councillor Matrosov. And through the chair, that's a really good point, and that's something that we've discussed as well. We would like to look at additional 911 signage to put potentially on the bottom of these signs, but it would be a separate sign. So if you'd be amenable, and the others as well who would be circulating on that, to include some messaging on those signs, just to kind of keep them a little bit separate in terms of ease of readability. But that's definitely something that we can incorporate into additional signage for sure.
Great, thank you very much.
Kathy?
Thank you, Chair. And just to tag on to your point, Councillor Matrosov's, at the bottom, there's a huge disclaimer from Grey Sauble Conservation. And I'm wondering if that could be shortened to say, maybe please see Grey Sauble Conservation site for disclaimer, or rather than having it all articulated there, because there's risks involved with everything. And I think if we're going to be doing disclaimers, the 911, pay attention or you're going to get a bill, is going to be, I would say, more important to include than this is not a plan of survey document. So that was one piece. The other piece was, I totally agree with Claudia and the color differentiation. There's a couple of tools that you can look at for color blindness, to make sure that the colors that you're using are the best ones for visibility for the most people. But I really like that you've got not just color use, but you've got use of a solid line and a dashed line to depict a difference in things. And my final thought is, I think 40 centimeters by 40 centimeters is kind of small, and I wondered if that could be larger.
Yeah, thank you for those comments, Kathy, and through the chair. For the first part, the disclaimer, I will have to check with Grey Sauble, because it would be their data license requirement that we would be adhering to. That was also a feedback that was provided from the Wilderness Association, potentially having like another QR code or having something that could direct you to that disclaimer instead of putting it all on the map. So I'll check with them and see what we can do for that. And for the color differentiation, yes, I think that's a great idea. It is a bit tricky with this particular map too, because you have both are orange, but they're different color oranges. So if we can look at better colors for that, I think that's a great point. And then for the size, we can also look at making the signs bigger. Yeah, because to your point, that is small. And if we can look at kind of expanding this a little bit and making it larger size, I think that would be very useful.
Claudia, you had a question?
Yes, and it might be off topic, I don't know. If there is, let's say, poison ivy on that piece of land, would there be signs that anybody can be aware of poison ivy there? Or if there is like endangered species, let's say there's some ginseng growing, so people don't rip it out and take it home. Is there anything in regards to that to inform people more about that type of environment? And how do we make it accessible to everybody?
Yeah, thanks for your question, Claudia, and through the chair. For the poison ivy piece, I know some properties do have signage that talk about stay on the trails, and that's for ecological reasons and for invasive or noxious weed reasons. So yeah, that's a great point. Specifically to the endangered species at risk component, typically those don't get signed because there's the concern that if it's known that a species is there, people will go and investigate it.
Yeah, to that point.
So, but yeah, those are both great points and definitely something that we can look into. I can't recall for this property specifically if they have a big problem with poison ivy. But yeah, I'm definitely happy to look into that.
That's great. Does anyone else have any questions for Melissa or for Natalie? Sorry, for Natalie. Kathy?
Hi, yes, thanks. I just want to go back to part A of this report, talking about the parking lot part. And Natalie mentioned gravel surface. And I just wanted to say that there's a lot of different crush measurements for gravel, and just to try to pick something that will be firm for wheelchairs and strollers. But also I do like that idea of gravel or screening because it does allow for drainage and stuff like that. But just to be mindful that we have to pick a good size and composition.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy, and through the chair. That's another great comment. The rail trail was recently resurfaced with stone dust, and we've received feedback that that's been a good surface to have. I'll have to look at specifically what grade of gravel they're using for this, but yeah, if we can look at something that's packed and hard packed and easy when it comes to snow plowing, and then for other times of the year when there's no snow, something that's accessible for the different types of devices that will be used on that surface would be great.
That's great. Does anyone else have any questions for Natalie? No?
I have a
Okay.
quick question.
Okay, Brooke.
Do we ever think about garbage placement and stuff like that? Because I'm just thinking, as a guide dog user, for example, I will have my dog with me, so having and making sure that garbages are like pretty accessible. So whether we have one at every single like sign, not like maybe like the different where you would have like the sign saying like if there's like an intersection or something for the trail, like so having a budge along the thing, because then there'd be more likely that other dog owners are going to properly dispose of their dog waste. It's just something that I know when I was in Guelph, they were really good about thinking about, and it just doesn't seem like something we ever mention here. And there's so many trails in our region compared to Guelph, so I just think it's important, if we want dog owners to be responsible, that we actually give them a way to be responsible.
Yeah, thanks, Brooke, and through the chair. That's a really good point. This property is interesting because Grace Sauble has a land use agreement with the ski club. And so typically when that's involved, they look after different things like that. So that's definitely something that we could bring up with with the club and discuss further, because for sure in the non-ski seasons or even during the ski seasons, there would be dog walkers, and I think that's a responsible disposal of waste is very important from an environmental and trail maintenance perspective. So that's a good point.
Andrea.
Thank you. Through you, the chair. That's a great point that's been made, and certainly I know from our community cleanups, the amount of the so-called biodegradable doggy bags that we pick out of the bushes along our trail sides, where people think if they toss it into the bush, it's going to disappear in 2 weeks, and 2 years later, it's still there. So, that I think that would be an excellent approach. The only consideration would then be in terms of the human resources staffing, in terms of who can visit which locations at a frequency that it's not going to end up rotting and becoming a problem itself for health and safety standards. So, strategically picking the guideposts that would be achievable according to the staffing that is there regularly checking and maintaining the trails. But I'm excited to see these go up. May I ask what the timeline? I can't remember from the report, or when you're hoping to get these posted.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Matrosov. And through the chair, we're looking hopefully either late August or early September. We just wanted to make sure we received all the feedback and made changes and make sure that all groups were satisfied with those changes. So hopefully by the end of the summer and in time for ski season, we'll have these signs in place.
That's great. Thanks, Natalie. Okay, I will present the motion that report PDR-JAAC-33-23 regarding the Maisie parking lot and Collapore Trail map signs be presented for review and comment. Can I get a mover for the motion, please? Andrea, and a seconder, Claudia. All in favor? Andrew?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the third item, and that is Town of Hanover new municipal website. And I'm going to hand this back to Melissa.
Thank you, Catherine. So lots of exciting things going on with the Town of Hanover. One of our other initiatives that we're currently looking at is a new municipal website. So I know in the past, some municipalities have presented demos of the website that they're looking at for the committee. However, we're not at that point yet. We thought that we would seek some feedback from the committee before we even get to that point. So we do know that our website is one of the primary methods that a lot of people use to receive information from us and to find information from the municipality. And that we really do need a new one because it really needs some work. Both I would think from an accessibility standpoint, I mean, we do what we can, but the fundamental foundation of the website really needs some assistance to make it much more accessible, and also just to help everyone find information a lot easier and to navigate the website. So we have gone through a request for proposal process, and the RFP was very recently awarded to a company that we're very excited about it. It looks great, and they seem very responsive to our needs and suggestions. And one thing that they did have to meet within the request for proposal was the requirement to conform to all of the accessibility standards and web content accessibility guidelines. And so while those will be built into the foundation of the website, we still want to speak to the committee and see, what input do you have on items that would really support making the website as accessible as possible, so that we can share that with our consultants when we're looking at developing the site and moving forward with that. One example, if I could share, was as we were going through the proposals, one of the companies, not the one that was selected, but one of the companies had said, well, we don't do a text size selector option on the web page because people use that in their overall browser and therefore don't need it in the website itself. So, I mean, potentially some people use that, but it's those types of features. Like, would you find it most user-friendly and accessible by having those options readily at your fingertips through the website as opposed to your overall browser?
Sorry, Claudia, go ahead.
Personally, I don't think it really matters. What would matter more for accessibility is how people who can't see or hear can access what they need to know. And I'm not sure if it's possible, but perhaps for blind people or even for convenience for other people, the website could be voice activated. So if you have a question, you say it out loud, and then you get basically the same answer that you could read. As a voice activated, it would say, okay, if you're looking for the CIBC in Hanover, yada yada, and it would just tell you, right? And anybody could use that. Like while you're wiping your kitchen table, you could ask the question, and then you get the information where to go when you want to do something in Hanover. So, but I don't know if it's possible technologically.
Andrew and Brooke, have you had any experience with software that you might be able to do something technologically, as Claudia mentioned?
I tend to use my iPhone, so like I could just ask my phone what restaurants are around me. So when we're in like Hanover, for example, I could say what restaurants are around me because I'm newer to the area, and it will give me a list of some of the ones that are around, and often it'll also tell me like their ratings. So that's even more important because you don't really want to go to like a 1 or 2 star restaurant, especially it would be a bad introduction to Hanover cuisine.
Thanks,
so
Brooke.
yeah, and then also like just in voice in general, like I don't tend to use any of the screen reader that are built into websites because I have my own, and most of us do have our own. Even I know Windows, for example, has like narrator built right into their software, or the Apple products have voiceover. So all of us have like our own preferences. So having to, I don't think most of us deal with any of the website related voice stuff.
Thank you. May I ask, what do you make use of any contrast, like color contrast change options?
I don't now, but I did when I was younger, like when I could see more, I did sometimes, but not necessarily. Like my website, my computer did it myself, so I didn't necessarily have to do it on the actual website. Sometimes I might hit, like I said, there was the one where you could like reverse the contrast.
Okay.
So instead of it being like a white background with black writing or something like that, then they would reverse it for me. I think I did use that once in a while, but like that's about the extent that I used.
Thank you.
Andrew,
Sorry,
do
just
you
to
have
add
any
to that.
feedback? Oh, sorry,
Just to add
Brooke.
to that, like I think nowadays things are so like our technology is so much more like we're able to have so much more in our house already. So I think a lot of the changing contrasts or changing sizes or adding voice isn't as necessary on a website. So I think it's more just making sure that the different screen readers work with it. So and not just getting somebody from the company to do it. So seeing if like Andrew, I don't know what he uses, getting him to go through the website, getting me where I use voiceover, seeing if somebody uses narrator, see if somebody uses like some of the other ones. So just kind of getting people to actually play around with the website to make sure that things are working. and then getting people with different vision abilities and making sure that things are like far enough apart so it's not all scrunched up or like things like that.
That's a great idea. Thank you, Brooke.
Andrew, do you have any comments that you can add?
Well, I use JAWS, the screen reading program, but I think these the things have to be labeled though, for enough of the screen reading programs to pick it up as a link.
Okay. Can I follow up on that? One thing that we had been chatting about with the various website providers is periodic accessibility audits. So the foundation of the website would be set up to help ensure that our content is posted in an accessible way. But you know, sometimes a web link might be broken or an image may be missing alt text. Although we are told that we will be forced to input all of that information before publishing anything, which is great. But still, there's these ongoing accessibility audits that are an option to help us target those things that we may not be working with each day. What is your thoughts on that? Do you feel that that might be something valuable?
Yes.
I think it's valuable because you're going to catch most things, and then maybe seeing if some of the other people who use it can also go through just to see if there's things that the technology is not catching that maybe people don't really realize is actually a problem.
Thank you.
Claudia, you had your hand up.
Yes, I was wondering if it would be valuable to hook up with the National Institute of the Blind and ask them certain questions and kind of try to stay in contact with them regularly so they could inform the committee when there's something new on the market or something like that, or see what they tell their patients and their clients. Like one of the people I work for sometimes, he's like 90% blind. And so I've been around blind people and I can see, you know, certain difficulties here and there. Like he has this program where his screen is black and the writing is white, and you know, but for him to learn the newest technologies or things that are offered on the market, he would always have to go and ask. So I think maybe we should try that ourselves.
And one thing I'd add to this is that with the WCAG, the Worldwide Accessible Guidelines for websites, I think they've covered a lot of it does cover a lot of the issues that or concerns that we've brought up. And I do think that, whoever was awarded the RFP are certainly not, they're adverse in website design and would be well adversed in the accessibility guidelines that are out there. So, but it wouldn't hurt, to have, I think a periodic assessment or audit would be a great idea. And I noticed Kathy has her hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to put a little plug in for another reason that makes those audits helpful is it demonstrates to the ministry when you're doing your compliance reports that you are endeavoring to meet the WCAG standard as best as possible. I know that of the 444 Ontario municipalities, every single one of them struggles to have a compliant website because people add content and one piece of content not accessible makes your website not accessible. So it's pretty tricky all the way around.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
Does anyone else? Oh, Andrew, sorry.
I know it's kind of set for the website itself, but maybe it's still kind of whatever. but when you do surveys and stuff like that, a screen reading person with screen reader can't do drag and drops. I've noticed quite a bit of that in the surveys. That Hanover is
Okay.
not.
Okay, that's great to know.
Mhm. Okay, does anyone else have any concerns for Melissa or comments for Melissa from the committee? No? Okay, I will present the motion that the town of Hanover the report regarding a new municipal website be received, and that the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee provide input for consideration and development of the website. Can I have someone move the motion?
Yes.
I
Claudia?
can move it.
Oh,
Oh,
Claudia beat you to
Calling out
it.
ourselves.
Can someone second it?
Hmm.
Brooke, can I get you to second it?
sure.
Okay, great. All right, and all in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And Melissa, thank you again for your presentation. Okay, we can move on to item number 4 is reference documents that were included in the, oh, sorry, Kathy. Did I miss you?
No, I just wanted to talk to your point once you got there about the reference
okay.
document.
All right. So the reference documents, there's 2. There's correspondence with regards to the Accessibility Standards Canada public review of draft standard on outdoor spaces. And the second item is correspondence, University Health Network, Toronto Rehabilitation Institute, and it is the Designing Accessible Public Spaces Research Study. And I will hand that over to Kathy to speak to.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I do want to throw one other thing in there before I get into this, and it's our non-voting members from the local municipalities are very quiet, and I just want to encourage you to join into the conversation, because you may have questions or thoughts that are relevant, and don't feel because you don't have a vote that you don't have a say. Okay, so on to the first one. So the public review draft standard on outdoor spaces. I did start to review that. It's really not in plain language at all. I reached out to them and said, if you want to connect with me, I can help you, because it's really not plain language at all. And they replied back saying, no, we can't do that, but if you want to submit your concerns, go ahead. But the concerns were going to be in the hundreds, and I didn't feel that was a good use of my time, so I passed on that invitation. The second one is the University Health Network's Toronto Rehabilitation Institute. This is an interesting project, because they're looking for participants for a study to work on designing accessible public spaces. So there's the poster that's there has the details of what the criteria is. I reached out to say, what's the time frame? They said the time frame isn't set in stone, and the study is going to be ongoing over the next year. There will be a visit to Toronto required, and participants will receive an honorarium to participate. I do think you have to fill out something to see if you qualify or whatever, but if anybody is interested, I think that this might be a cool thing to participate in.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kathy, on that. Yeah, you never see this type of invitation, so it's pretty exciting to see them offering this opportunity. Yeah, it's great information. Thank you. And so we'll move on to item number 5, which is other business. And this is Kathy as well, an update on the accessible municipal features map.
I'm going to share my screen. It says I'm screen sharing. Can anybody see a
Yep.
map?
I can see
Okay.
it.
Okay. We've talked about this little project quite a lot since I think maybe 2017, maybe even before that. And this is something that we've been trying to get off the ground. It's not at the point where it exactly needs to be yet, but I wanted to bring this to the committee to show you what I've got. And then for Brooke and Andrew, knowing that you can't see what I'm showing, I have a link to this piece that's going to be live. I'm going to send it out for the whole committee. And I'm very happy to have any feedback on it. And it might not even be good feedback right away, because I feel like there's already parts of this that aren't accessible. And I feel like IT knows that. So it's not quite there yet. So don't panic that it's not as good as it's going to be. But I do still want to hear anybody's thoughts at this time. And again, I'll do it later after we get closer as well. So it's broken down. You can see each of the 9 local municipalities on the map, and they are also, oh, here's a question. Can you see when I move my mouse around as well?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. So
But
there are
can you, sorry to interrupt, can you make the map bigger at all? It's very,
I can make it bigger, but it's going to cut part of it out. So I will
Okay.
do that. And I'll just slide over. I'll just focus on the south half of the county, because I feel like Owen Sound gets a lot of attention. So we'll
Thank
just
you.
drop it a bit south at this point. So you can click on any of the 9 local municipalities and it'll zoom into that area, or you can just click on any of the buttons here. So we'll pick Hanover and we'll click on the Town of Hanover Civic Center. So what pops up there is the address, the phone number, there's a link to the website, and then under that, there's a list of services. So the Town of Hanover Civic Center has fire station, municipal office, parking, public washroom, service counter, waiting area, and the Hanover Civic Theater. And accessible features of this facility include an accessible entrance, accessible meeting rooms, accessible parking, an accessible pathway, an accessible washroom, automatic door opener, barrier-free washroom, elevator, safety features, service animal provisions, sidewalk curb cuts. So each facility has a list of what the services it provides, as well as the accessible features. And then at the bottom, there's a little picture of what the facility looks like. So I'll do another one here. Let's go over to Southgate. So here we are, the Southgate Municipal Office. And it shows accessible entrance, accessible parking, ramps. And if you click to the website, it takes you right to, okay, that didn't work. It's supposed to take you right to the, sorry, it's supposed to take you right to the feature. Anyway, there is some work to be done yet on these. So my questions for you guys are, what's going to be the most important information that you want to have included? And how can this map be the most meaningful for everybody? So I'd like to open that up to the floor.
Yes, Claudia.
Like we've just seen, the link to the website doesn't always take you where it's supposed to go. Is there anyone actually trying out those links? Like I see that on many websites in all kind of different circumstances. You click on the link and there's just no link. Like it says there's a link, but it doesn't work. So these web designers often don't try it out, or you get the ability to email them, but when you try to email them, the email address doesn't exist or something like that. So perhaps we could make sure that all the links work.
Thank you, Claudia, and through the chair to you. Yes, this is primo of things that I'm looking at the moment, and I've been running through trying to fix the links. But what I'm hoping for is that each municipality will have like a contact person that will have as part of their role to provide me with updates when they happen. Like, for example, when Hanover updates its website, chances are that all the links to this accessibility map aren't going to connect anymore.
Exactly.
So yeah, that is something that is definitely one of the priority items.
That's great. Andrew? Andrew, did you have a question?
No,
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay. So, there were two other things that I have been struggling with how to make this work the best way possible. One is hours of operation. So a lot of places, so if you look at, I'm going to jump back up to the northern end of Grey County and pop into Owen Sound because that's where I live. And I go to the Kelso Beach often, and they have lovely bathroom facilities there. But the bathroom facilities have times when they're open and times when they're closed, and those change seasonally. But I mean, having access to the public bathroom, that's a really important feature. So I'm trying to figure out how can we have that information here so that it's consistent and reliable. So probably nobody's going to have an answer to that, but if you do, please email me because I'm really trying hard to figure that out.
Yes, Claudia.
Maybe if we do have a contact person in every one of these 9 municipalities, it should be their duty to keep that information updated.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any comments?
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe Councillor Matrosov's hand is raised.
Oh, sorry, Andrea.
Thank you. Through you, the chair, I agree. I think the best place for that most up-to-date information is the people who have the boots on the ground. So it's whomever the community services rep is, or you know, however they want to delegate it to which staff member knows that whenever there's an update, because it should be a simultaneous to the information that we update on our own municipal websites at the same time. So if it just becomes second nature, oh, I better make sure I copy that to Kathy and send it to her at Grey County. I think that will be helpful, because there's nothing worse than going to a place when you think it's supposed to be open and then discovering that it's not. So this is not just trivial information. This is quite important.
Through you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Matrosov. Yeah, so I will be reaching out to everybody after this meeting and looking for some thoughts and on the accessibility of the map itself, of the content you want to see, of how we're going to keep it up to date. And I'll be the one at Grey County who is in charge of making sure that all of the updates are done. I'm going to be doing those. I have the editor feature. And the other thing is, what was the other thing? It just slipped my mind. Oh, yes. So this map is going to be available. So any of the 9 local municipalities can have it also on their own website. I think that's it for me.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Kathy. Andrea, did you have another question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Through you, Kathy, are you also responsible for the recent release that went out about cooling centers, about locations?
No.
Okay, just because I've got to try to source that down too, because a member of our local media has alerted us that it's actually not up to date and accurate. It still says our Craigleith station is closed, and it's not. So, so just this is why it's so important that we can. So when somebody just grabs something off the internet because they think that that's the most accurate information, they might have tripped into something that was archival or something like that. So, okay. Thanks. I'll trace it down then. Thank you.
That's great. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is our next meeting, which is scheduled for September the 6th at 1 p.m. And I believe, other than if anyone has any other comments or concerns, we can adjourn the meeting. So I propose that the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and I hope the balance of your summer goes extremely well. And I guess we'll see each other in September.
Thank you.